Hi, I'm Lizzy, and this is Kinda Healthy Podcast. Today, my guest is Emily Zwilling. Emily is an integrative health practitioner and the founder of Easy Wellness, where she teaches people how to achieve sustainable health. She is also a host on her podcast called Wellness.unfiltered and a gym owner. Emily strives to inspire people through action and remind people of the hard but true lesson that change doesn't happen overnight. Here's my conversation with Emily.
Hi.
Hi. Hello.
How are you, honey?
Doing good. How about you?
Good.
Yeah. Thank you for taking the time to talk with me tonight.
Yeah, no problem, Lizzy.
So you got a lot going on. I'm really glad that we were able to nail down a time because I know you host a podcast, you own a CrossFit gym, and you're also an integrated health practitioner. So for people who aren't familiar with that, what does that mean?
Yeah. So basically, I'm like that allied provider. So I am that person. So I can work with functional medicine doctors, dietitians, things like that. But I've been trained in, hundreds, close to thousands different like nutritional protocols, health issues, things like that. So I'm actually that person that holds your hand through the process of making these changes, because that is exactly what I've seen just over time. I started, extremely overweight in the fitness industry in 2003. I was like in a horrible place and, overweight and all these bad habits from all different areas. And, fitness and wellness did save my life, but in a sense, like I could see so many people who were, losing weight, gaining weight, fear of certain foods. Really, and that's what I loved about, with health coaching, it's about bio individuality. So what I believe could work for you could be completely poisonous for the other. So in a functional medicine world, we really think of the body as a whole. So I'm like that person to just rip that Band-Aid off, and not just, treat symptoms and manage them, but actually figure out that underlying issue and actually treat it and get to the bottom to why you're doing the things that you're doing or why the health issues, these underlying health issues that you have.
Right. Because a lot of people do try to do it the way other people have brought it to them, right? They always think that there's got to be one way to do it, and they don't really consider whether it's right for them or not. They just figure you have to force yourself to do this. It's going to be uncomfortable. You're not going to like doing it, so you just have to suck it up. But really, if you're doing it the way that's good for you, it shouldn't be so awful.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I think it's like, I've never liked the dogmatic approach. I don't work with practitioners who have a dogmatic approach. I really like it to be super specialized and per that individual. That's exactly how I run my programs. There's no specific way, but these changes that need to happen, it's not like someone can be handed a meal plan and say, you know what, eat this, and then everything's going to be perfect, just stick to it, because we end up carrying a lot of like guilt and shame, or like feeling like, we're not motivated enough. Maybe we don't have what it takes. We don't have the willpower, when that is all, what society has like perpetuated, but it's not actually true. And, if we can get to like, it's information. So the more we know, the more we can make those decisions. So I never tell people, don't do this, you can't have this, don't do this. I'm like, no, and we're not going to put these stipulations on you. We're going to work together, every week and work on these small little habits, and, knowledge is power. And, I think that's just so important that we kind of break the social norm of what we're supposed to look like, or how we're supposed to work out, or what we're supposed to eat, because it just isn't realistic for like long term.
Right. Yeah. And people can tend to be pretty hard on themselves. And the whole phrase of when you know better, you do better, that's true, but it's not 100% true all the time. And you've got to let yourself have those moments where, you're not perfect, because people really get rigid with yes and no, black and white when it comes to these things. And they can even start to push it on other people. So what do you do when you see that happening. Maybe somebody's doing it to themselves, or you even maybe see the way they talk with you that they're kind of getting into that mindset.
I completely understand it because, someone could go and they could be living such an unhealthy lifestyle and then can go paleo and they're like, paleo is the world. It's changed my life. I feel great. They could do the same thing. Unhealthy lifestyle, go keto. Keto's changed my life. It's my everything. It does this, it does that. So I can see people in their heart really believing it and believing it can help people. But unfortunately, there is no, this is the only approach. There isn't. Because literally, if that same person, I usually think about like, okay, so you're doing keto. That is wonderful. Are you going to do that in 2020? Are you going to do that 2030? Because if you can live that way forever, then wonderful, then great, more power to you.
Right.
But you know what? They're not.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone has a breaking point. We can only take so much. So I can see why, but unfortunately, if you go from an unhealthy lifestyle, and maybe that could be high stress, poor nutritional habits, lack of activity, whatever diet you do, you're going to see the same results, practically the same exact results. The question is like, well, can we do this forever? Most likely no, because you're deprived. So I don't like to give food power. And I've even seen it like from a cellular point where someone is like literally eating healthy and not losing weight and, working out all the time, and they're not seeing results. And it's like, how's your sleep? It sucks. How's your stress level? Horrible. Okay. Well, you're going to keep putting on weight no matter how hard you work out, no matter what. From a physiological standpoint, your body is so smart. And it's like your cortisol levels are high. You probably have bad cravings. You probably are irritable. I mean, it's just so many underlying things that we don't think about. We just think it's like diet and exercise. And if it was that easy, everyone would be thin.
Yeah. So I know you're familiar with Sean Stevenson too, right? In the Model Health Show.
Yes.
Yeah. I just saw today that he has a new book coming out, the Eat Smart book. But I loved his Sleep Smarter book. I read that and I went into reading it thinking, I know this stuff, like I'll look at it. But I mean, he really touched on a lot of points that were so good and really did make you think and make you realize that you do have to pay attention to those things, because if you are throwing off your hormones, there's like, that's the first part of it, I mean, it's like, it's your gut health, but it's also your hormones, and that's where a lot of it stems from, right? So like, if you're throwing yourself off at a basic level like that, it doesn't matter what you're eating and how you're exercising, right?
Oh, absolutely. And I do this thing with my clients too. When I first start working with them, it's like, there's primary foods and secondary foods. So we always think primary foods are going to be like the food that you put in your body for nourishment and like your activity. Those are number one. That is actually, we slide it to the side and I actually go through so those are called secondary foods, primary foods. And what I do is I kind of go through and see where are we lacking, and then what areas in our life are we lacking. So I will ask, on a scale of 1 to 10, where's your joy? Do you have healthy relationships? How are you financially? How's your creativity? How is your spirituality? How is your sleep? And like, we kind of just go through this list on a 1 to 10, and it's like, all of a sudden there's just a light bulb. And it's like, yeah, if you are work 9 to 5 and you hate your career and you're stressed, that's 40 hours a week, times it by 4 weeks, time that by 365 days a year. That is a lot of unhealthy stress.
Right.
Like, how can you do anything for you when your stress levels are that high? And then we have to like work through, stress management techniques and stuff like that.
Right. Because then that puts you in a negative mindset, and that almost kind of kills any good that you try to do from there on, because you're not coming to it in a positive way.
Yeah. So, yeah. You're coming from, I work really well with therapists. And so one of Jackie Sell, we had her on our podcast, and she does a lot of different treatments in different ways. And she made it such a good point that so many people come from this place of like guilt and shame. And instead of you doing things to nourish your body, you're really just punishing your body. And I see that through like deprivation and then binging or overtraining. It's tough. And I know I've been there and I know how hard it is. And so when you were talking about like perfection and things like that, it's one of those things, like if you were to go to anyone to ask for help and you felt like they were perfect, they resembled the perfect life, the perfect body, the perfect, you're not going to be honest with them of what's really going on deep inside of you because you have guilt and shame on it and you think they're going to judge you. But if you go to someone who's like, when I first got into it, I was hesitant to show, my flaws, stuff that I personally struggle with. Cause I'm like, I'm supposed to have my shit together. Like, this is my life.
Right.
But the more I was like, this is what I'm going through sometimes. Like, it's not perfect. It's progress. It's not easy. Sometimes I do the same things that, you're doing, but I've been there. I know how to overcome it. I know the steps I need to take to get through it. I know what's triggering me. And the more I like talked about that, the more I started like getting mirror images of clients that were just like me. And I was attracting my ideal clientele.
Oh, yeah. I mean, because that's really interesting to have the information to know and recognize when you feel yourself sliding into those negative traits and ways of doing things, that you can pull yourself out, and then to be able to help people with that is so important, because I think that's one of the main things that people don't recognize, is looking at themselves and paying attention to when things are triggering them like that. I know that there was a time when I was trying to lose weight, and I was doing it kind of like you said, where nothing was off limits, and there was just like good, better, and best. And I had my choice for protein and fats and, carbohydrates and things like that. And some days it was really easy just to go ahead and pick the most nutritious one that would keep me the fullest. But other days I was like, no, I'll have the okay one, because I feel like, kind of having whatever I wanted. And that worked really good because nothing was off limits. But then I had heard from my brother that my dad had been doing low carb. And he was like, oh, have you seen Dad? He's lost a bunch of weight. He's, doing, this Atkins or whatever it was. And I was like, no, really? And I feel like I probably only wanted to lose like maybe 10, 15 pounds more at that point.
Yeah.
And so I was like, hell yeah, I'm going to do that. This is going to come off like nothing. No, that totally threw me off. Trying to eat that way took me into a spiral where I think I ended up gaining 30 pounds at the end of it all. And it was like, what was that all about? Like, so just cutting out carbohydrates and eating the protein and, trying to stick to a rigid plan like that blew everything I already did out of the water and set me back. And then so that was one of the times that I realized that, oh yeah, I mean, for me, that's not how it works. It may work like that for somebody else and they can preach to me all day long, but I know that it's okay if I have a piece of bread,
Yeah, absolutely. And our bodies are just so different. And it's like men are most likely, well, we know this, they've never been on birth control.
Mm-hmm.
They never had a period. Like there's so many different hormones going on inside of us compared to men.
Right.
A lot of, maybe some men have more muscle, some of them don't. Like some women carry more muscle, some women don't. Like it's just very, even when I'm working with my clients, they are like, this is a lot of food and they are losing weight. And they're just like, I just never wrapped my mind around this. I'm like, your body doesn't want to be deprived. Like,
right.
And then also it's kind of like, will that make you happy? I was a huge competitive powerlifter and I did it 3 years straight. And I always had some body image issues. It started off when I was a child. I was chunky. Family members made fun of me. It was totally in their minds innocent, and it's fine. But those little things kind of stick with you as a kid.
Right.
And I've always been one of those people, Lindsay, I can put on weight like that. If I just
ate
me
like too.
And did whatever I wanted, I could put on easily 10 pounds in a week.
Mm-hmm.
Like no joke.
Right.
And when I got into competitive powerlifting, I always picked a lower weight class because I was the strongest. I'd come in first, I make it to nationals, and it would force me to diet and lose weight.
Mm.
And it became a really bad cycle. And, then I went into this lower weight class, even lower. So I normally sit about 145, 150-ish.
Mm-hmm.
And when I wasn't, so I would do 12 and 14 week cuts. And then I would, then binge because I was so deprived.
Right.
And then I would do 12 to 4. I did this, for 3 years. And the last one I did, I went to the lowest weight class because I was like, 132. This is going to be like, I'm going to be so happy when I hit on that scale and I get to 132. Girlfriend, the things that I had to do during those cuts, and I had a coach, okay,
Right.
to make it, and never once did my nutrition coach say, you're fucking up your hormones. It's not okay to lose your period. Emily,
Right.
is this really going to make you happy? And I was like, look at me. I have so much willpower. I'm determined. I have my food prepped. Like, look at me. Like, how self-absorbed now looking back is that I just thought like I was really dedicated to this sport and to like my health.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so this was in 2015. And I just remember that day, that morning I had to go step on the scale in front of the ladies and I hit 132.2, and I go, I'm taking off my clothes because I need to hit 132. Took off my clothes, got on the scale, weighed 132, got off, and I just like sat there and thought, I don't like who I am.
Mm-hmm.
Like I thought when I got to this weight on the scale that my life would just be different. It would be perfect. I'd never have to worry about like my weight again. But
Right.
It did the opposite because strangers were telling me I looked great. My family and friends told me I looked gone. But it was like feeding my ego because strangers were like, you look great. You look thin. But I'm like, I'm so unhealthy. This is not me leading by example. I have to do something about this. And
Right.
It took 2 years for me to recover my body from how much damage I did. I didn't have a period. I ballooned up. No one taught me about reverse dieting, after you're losing weight or your
Right.
metabolism, like no one. And I was like, I will not let any of my clients go through this again. And I won't, I would not want people to go through that. And I see it all the time.
Right. I know a lot of the times the things that we do to ourselves, if we heard from somebody else they were doing that to them, we would tell them to stop it. It's horrible. You're hurting yourself. Why can't you realize? But we keep it to ourselves and we do it and we don't even think about that.
No, like we're someone's child.
Right.
Like we wouldn't say this to a child. The things that we have to say to ourselves. So yeah, through like health coaching, I do a lot of like mindset work, positive psychology, just digging deep and figuring out these patterns, and then doing a lot of goal setting and just giving people information. And it works. It's like a system that I have met with other health coaches that's gone through similar programs as me, some that went through mine. And I'm like, the system works. It's just that we have to compete against a culture who's saying that to be healthy, you only know if someone's healthy by their appearance, and that is not true.
Right. Yeah, I absolutely believe that, especially with this whole body positivity and everything going on. I just saw the other day about the singer Lizzo, and everybody went into an uproar because she did a juice cleanse for a little bit. And I mean, not saying one thing or another about that. I mean, that's your choice if you want to do that. But just the fact that people act like you should be able to treat your body however you want, accept it at any size, that's fine. But people act like once you do something healthy, though, like they'll applaud you while you eat cake and eat cookies and say, yes, you're beautiful. And once you do something else where they perceive as you turning on them or going the other way, you get all this backlash. But I mean, you just because you do that doesn't always mean that you're trying to change your whole lifestyle. You're just maybe doing that thing just to maybe kind of reset or feel a little bit better. but you're not looking to lose a whole bunch of weight or anything. So what's your perspective on the whole body positivity?
That's a really good question. The way I think about it is if I was looking at a magazine and on the left side of a magazine was a woman who was 5'5" and weighed 85 pounds, I would say something unhealthy is going on inside of her body. You know, a grown woman, something's wrong. Their blood markers can't be good. And then I would look at the other right picture. And if I saw a woman who was 5'5" and 300, 350 pounds, I would say the same exact thing.
Right.
Something is wrong. Somewhere, they're punishing themselves in one way or another. Both lenses don't seem healthy to me.
Right.
And I can't promote people being unhealthy. And it's not to say it, and it's not always appearance. I have had women that have a 6-pack that look phenomenal, that are orthorexia, who don't get a period, who overtrain. And I've had women that come to me and their blood markers suck. And then I've had women who come to me that have an extra 20 pounds on them. But guess what? Their sleep's great. Their stress levels are low. They eat the foods that nourish their body, and their blood markers look great. And when they come to me and say, I want to lose 20 pounds, then I dig deep and figure out what internally, why they feel that way. Because it's going to take a lot of work to get that. You know, we do kind of have, as women, especially like women, like from ancestry days and stuff, we're not meant to be like super skinny. We're not meant to be overweight, but it's okay to have a little bit of weight on you. I mean, that means like you're getting enough calories.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and our bodies each have their own kind of resting weight where they're the most comfortable, right? Where you naturally kind of want to sit, and we tend to want to fight it for aesthetics and to look like everybody else, and all of that.
I mean, like, it's true. It's more of like, what are the habits? What are the underlying habits? That's like the biggest thing I try to look at when it does come to that body positive. We get this way some way. We get underweight some way. We get overweight some way. We have health issues some way. What is that way? Let's pull that nail out. There's an answer, and sometimes we can't figure it out. That's why I work well with therapists, because sometimes we have just such deep underlying issues. And that's why some people are like, it's genetics. Really, genetics is a very small part of our whole big picture. It's very small. A lot of times what I see is someone grew up in a family eating a certain way.
Right.
Their parents have it, but then they continued eating these bad habits, or like not moving their body. And it's like, at some point in time, like, we have to take personal responsibility for what we're doing, one way or the other. Like, we have to just own it and figure out what we could do to, be healthier, lead by example. And that can be in so many different ways. It doesn't have to be just aesthetics. It's how you're treating people, what you're doing on the sidelines, the conversations that you're having. These are all, and everyone has like their own little triggering things that trigger them. Some people are stressed and then they eat. Some people are stressed and then they drink. Like, we all have our own like kind of things. We're not perfect. We're human.
Right. Yeah. So I could see where if you could get somebody to think about the things that they enjoy. I know I forget all the time how much I like music. And every once in a while I'll fall into it again. I'm like, oh yeah, I can spend hours doing this, and I'm not thinking about anything else. It's nice to have those things where you just kind of get swallowed up in, like a project, if you like art or music or anything like that can actually make us feel like more complete people, rather than trying to focus on our weight and our food as a way to try to make ourselves something that we want to be, rather than something we really are.
Oh, absolutely. I always tell people all the time, like, the least interesting thing about you is what you look like. That's the least interesting to me. Like,
Right.
that's not
Absolutely.
like when you said like I like, so it's like fun because you're thinking of like, what things can I do that bring joy to my life that have nothing to do with aesthetics? And that helps so much, like music. And then when you mention music, I'm interested. What music do you like to listen to? Do you like to sing? Do you play an instrument? Do you like have certain genres? Like then I'm interested. But if we were just sitting here talking about what you looked, I'd be like, I'm over this.
Oh God, yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Thinking about just talking to somebody about the way they look. That sounds dreadful. Right. But I mean, that's basically what we do with ourselves most of the time. We think we focus on our weight like that and forget that, yeah, there's more interesting things. And then on top of it, we're so much harsher on ourselves than other people are. Honestly, I know I had a friend and she was a bigger girl, but I mean, she was never excluded from anything and everybody loved her and everybody thought she was great to be around. But every once in a while, I could see her get down on herself and kind of, start pulling away from people when we're all together and stuff like that. And I'm just like, nobody else is thinking about you in that way. Nobody else is looking at you and being like, oh, why does she look like that? We see you for who you are, and that's just you. That's how people see you. They don't look at you and go, oh, well, you'd look better if you lost 20 pounds. You just accept people for who they are when you like them. But we have a tendency to not like ourselves.
Oh yeah. No, you hit the nail on the head there. Absolutely. And
Right.
sometimes it's just like, yeah, there's something, inside of us that we have like these negative thoughts and like these triggers. And sometimes it's like, I have certain triggers and I have conversations with people when they say them. I don't put it on them. I put it on me as like, well, why is this triggering to me? And I got to think about it. Sometimes I have to journal about it. Sometimes I got to meditate about it. And then I like work through it because it's not anything with them, just those words or that sentence. And it takes me back to things I don't enjoy. And then, sometimes we have to have these hard conversations with people about, how things make you feel. And then sometimes people just are toxic and you have to distance yourself from them because, they're not building you up and they're not, they're not putting you in a good place mentally. So it is what it is.
Right. Yeah. A lot of times in the past, I've noticed if I let a particular family member know that I was trying to lose weight, it would become a competition very quickly. And I would get the phone calls of, oh, I lost such and such amount of weight. How much have you lost? And I just really felt like, my weight loss is about me and yours is about you. So why are we comparing? Why does that seem like something you could even compare,
Yes. And then that was triggering because then you felt like, oh, I'm not doing enough. Maybe I need to be doing this. And it's just, then it takes you into an unhealthy place and with unhealthy behaviors towards yourself.
Right. Yeah. I mean, resenting yourself in a way and resenting the other person, dreading the phone calls. And it's like, and then on top of it, it's like, and if that wasn't the case, like maybe that person felt like they had an off week. That doesn't mean that I was like, oh, well, good. Well, I lost 3 pounds this week. You only lost 1. It just seems like such a toxic way to interact with somebody. I don't know.
Yes. I mean, really, if you ever in your head feel like I want to lose weight, think about these things, but I don't feel the need for, I would suggest maybe not bringing it up to people and then putting that pressure on yourself, maybe, and then focusing on like, not the scale or like the habits, like, hey, I'm slipping and I'm doing this more. I need to do this more. And then it just becomes like natural instead of having that pressure.
Right. Yeah. I think also, if you just generally find things that you like to do, you'll end up getting there somehow, so if you're not thinking about it and you're doing something where it doesn't have to necessarily be an exercise or something, but just something in general you like that gets you moving or gets you motivated in some kind of way, I think that can help a lot too. I have not been on exercising lately. I don't know. I think I've been stressed out at work and stuff like that. And I just do not even want to think about that when I come home.
Right.
But I do try to just get out more, try to go out and explore and find new things. That's why I've been getting more into local things, local restaurants, local shops. The whole quarantine thing has really helped me refocus in the city, because I was always so obsessed with getting out of town, going on a vacation, getting away, but having all of this happen has really made me realize the things you want, you need to make sure that they're close too, so you don't want those businesses to go away.
Right. No,
Right.
for sure. So I tried to creep on you and stalk as much as I could before we talked tonight.
Okay, so what'd you find?
Yeah. So then, like, what made you want to start this?
Well, I had said, I guess in the last episode, now I feel like I'm saying it too much, but we had done the whole moving off grid thing.
Okay.
So, we did that for about a year. And so that got me into gardening and plants and herbs and things like that. Mm-hmm. So we came back into town and I wanted to still be into those subjects. And so I was thinking of, like doing herbal blends and things like that. And it quickly snowballed into me realizing, you need to understand that, you need to understand the chemistry of that, you need to understand how people react with that. And so, it went from taking herbal courses to taking general health courses to taking holistic health practitioner courses.
Yes.
So, something that seemed very simple turned into a whole thing where I knew I didn't want to necessarily focus on having a practice, but I did want to talk to people about these things. And I was like, how am I going to do that? Am I going to be like a speaker? Am I going to go around and talk about that? And I was like, I guess podcasts are a thing. I could do that. But I was so nervous about it for so long. I put it off for easily a year and a half, 2 years before I actually got the nerve. But yeah, so I like to talk about this stuff because when I was going to school for it, I realized a lot of people even taking the courses who are already maybe have practices of their own and we're just doing kind of continued education, did have these attitudes of, correcting people's behaviors, right? And when you said the whole dogmatic approach to things is exactly what I was against too, because I could see people saying, well, if people came to me for help and they said this, well, I would, come back to them with this information and, like kind of being overbearing with trying to know it all and forcing people to do things a certain way. When the more I learned, I realized it was all individual and we needed to take a gentle approach with most people, because I know if that's how somebody tried to tell me to do something, I would not be very receptive to it. and I don't know if I would even realize it on the outside, but I think I might just rebel on the inside. And then I think that's also a time where you might see somebody kind of rebel and go, well, oh yeah, well, I'm going to eat this whole pizza then.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. No one wants to be told what to do.
Right.
Children, adults, no one. And in fact, the way our brain works, if we say don't do this, like don't have sugar, then that's all you're going to think about. That's just our human nature and design. So why would we put ourselves in those situations?
Yeah. So I realized that I wanted to talk to people about being more in tune with themselves and realizing what they needed. And then there are so many basics that people just don't pay attention to, as far as sleep, like you said, and getting enough water and things like that. So I know that, we're very much a diet culture and, there's always trends happening, but people really need to focus on the basics and what works for them and try to forget that as much as you can. And I think the more people talking about that and bringing that, because sometimes but sometimes you just need to hear it again, know?
Oh,
So,
yeah. Sometimes you just need that validation or the yes, what I'm thinking. Because a lot of times we're thinking things, but we're not saying it because no one else is saying it.
Right.
And we don't want to be that person, but I mean, we have to be that person.
Yeah.
We just have to, because there's a lot of people out there who are feeling, what we're feeling or thinking. They just don't have any guidance. They feel alone.
Right. Yeah. And I think, because I'm the same way, the way you said that you can easily gain weight. And I'm the same way. I can gain weight, but I can drop it too. And it's the weirdest thing. But I think I have a lot of muscle or something like that. But yeah. I feel I've been both ways numerous times. So I feel like, I have no judgment on where somebody is at any particular time, because I know I've been all of it one way or another. So yeah, I want to have conversations with people about health from a non-judgmental perspective.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think you would really like the owner of Forrest Meadow. I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but definitely look into it. She's an herbalist, and she's insanely talented and smart and caring. And I think you would really vibe with her very well. But look that up.
I do feel like the name is familiar, but
yeah, she has a shop that's right over. I buy all my adaptogens from there, some teas. She's right at Ivanhoe and Filer in the city, so she's like literally right around the corner from our gym. And I mean, it's just she's doing. That's another thing is like, building up other people. Like you said, like you doing this here. It's a gift because you really are being like, hey, the people who are doing good things in St. Louis, like I want to raise them up. So I'm always like, who are these people? Even, we did a pop-up shop, and I'm like, Todd always consulted with me on like what ingredients he was putting in his Bloody Mary and Mm-hmm. But I mean, these are the like underdogs that are doing really good things in, either the US or in St. Louis, but they're just not out there talking about it because they're humble. And that's just, right. But these are the people like we can raise up. And so like, I really try to do as much as I can to support those people, because they are in that same wavelength of thought with like you and me.
Right. Yeah, I know. And another thing that was kind of a deterrent for me even doing the podcast was like, I didn't want it to be all about me, So I feel like focusing on people close is the best option and the most important thing for me to get their messages out there and the good things about them and the things that they're promoting health-wise. And just that's why I called my podcast Kind of Healthy Podcast, because I didn't want it to ever be about this is how you do it. I never wanted to come off as some kind of instructor or something like that. But I wanted to showcase as many different people and as many different ways of doing things, so people knew that if they were trying something and it wasn't working for them, there's other options. And to see how, we're used to getting zeroed in on certain things, but I think it's so important to be able to see, I could do it the way she did it or the way he did it, or, and take maybe just little bits from everybody and build your own way of doing things.
Yeah, I love it. Absolutely. I love it. Well, I'm proud of you and you should be proud of yourself for getting out of your comfort zone and doing it.
Thank you. I like to surprise myself every once in a while and do something completely out of character for the most part.
Oh yeah. No, I'm like, if you feel like, if you feel scared, if you feel like you're going to shit your pants, you're on the right track of like what you should be doing. Right. Because that's how you even like build up your character, is by doing these things.
Yeah. I'm all like worked up in my chest.
Girl, I can talk about this forever. So
I know.
Keep talking. I will talk your ear off. Sometimes I rant on the podcast. I'll be like, okay, I just went for a rant. I'll take a deep breath. Sorry, Kelly.
Right. I know. Well, you have a regular co-host, don't you?
Yeah, Kelly.
Yeah, yeah. I think that would be the most ideal thing, I think, because it'd be nice to have somebody you could really like get down into some subjects with, and having that familiarity with somebody and that comfort with somebody can really help you just kind of like really get into some stuff.
Well, I mean, if you wanted to, you could always do returning guests if you still
Mhm.
want to make it your own, like, but we do that too. But yeah, her and I just bring a perfect mesh because we agree on so many things, but we have separate personalities. We have, just very separate. So it's like a perfect, she's like the cream to my Oreo, like, and we're
Right.
okay to like not agree on something and like talk through it back and forth. And it just is good because then it shows people like two health professionals have a different thought process or feeling, and like they're both right and there's no wrong. It just,
Absolutely. Yes.
you
Yes.
know,
I love
but
that.
what we've dealt with in our industry, we're going to have different perspectives.
Right. Yeah, I know. I think that's great that it's you guys have different ideas of things and you can talk about them in a healthy way and not a combative way where a lot of people like to think of things where if you don't think exactly how I do, then you're my enemy,
Oh, I know. And that's why we named it Wellness Unfiltered. We kept trying to, it was unfiltered for everything, but we couldn't. Everyone, our names had been taken. We had bullshitted on it for a year because then we were scared. And then, we didn't know what we were doing. And it was like a whole situation, but we figured it out just like everyone does. But yeah, we just wanted to be like, we had seen so many people just in the industry saying one thing doing another,
Mm.
and we just really wanted to break the norm and just be like, the proof is in the actions, the proof isn't in the pictures, the proof isn't in what anyone says on social media, because they can do whatever facade that they want. Like it's in like the proof is in in people's actions. And so I mean, I've met a ton of people who seemed wonderful on Instagram, and they were like, these are my people. And then I've met them in person and been like, oh my gosh, I'm so disappointed, like it hurts my heart that this is how it is. And I mean,
Right.
same thing, I've met people who have 400K followers who make no money on social media. I've met people who have 100 followers who make six figures. I'm like, this is just a popularity contest. And if you just put out like, I feel like I'm very like my mom. She has really good instincts. I feel like I see right through people.
Yeah.
It's just, and and that's like one of those things where I'm like, you can verbally say whatever you want and write it out however you want, but it's all in that picture or in someone's actions of like, what are you doing on the side to actually help people and not just yourself. And that's where the truth lies.
Right. Oh no, another popularity contest. I'm the worst with those. I keep waiting to get old enough where things don't come down to just a popularity contest, but I don't think that's ever going to happen.
Girl, I know it's hard. I mean, I get it. It is so hard, but gosh, it's just, you just have to remove those people that are indirectly making you either feel bad about yourself or that, it's just making you think or do things that you wouldn't do, because I mean, it just, those aren't your people, and you have to get them out of your social so you don't
Right.
see it.
Yeah.
But it's hard. It is hard.
Yeah, I know a lot of people get easily sucked into all of that hate following and all of that stuff on social media and following people who make you feel bad, like somehow through some kind of osmosis you're just going to turn into that person instead and change the way you are. But oh well. I don't know.
Well, I mean, it's like, what about, that just old of like talking to people, just like having real conversations, like actually really getting to know someone. by having conversations. I mean, I literally, I haven't personally listened to your podcast. Yes, I have it on my to-do for my walk with my dogs tomorrow morning.
Okay.
I've been out of town, so I'm going to listen. But I did, like I said, creep on you. But it's like, I'm sure like you've met people like, you don't know, like we could have hopped on this podcast and you could have been like, you know what, she's really cool, but I didn't vibe with her.
Mm-hmm.
Like I like her, I respect her, but I just don't vibe. And I think it's good to have those people on too, because then you're showing different perspectives. There's some people on our podcast, I'm like, that's an interesting perspective. That's not my perspective, but I think it's good that we show that like we can still respect good people, and just because we don't share the same opinion or the same experience doesn't make their opinion or their feelings or their processes any less valuable.
Right.
But it's like, this is how you get to know, like we came on here and we just like clicked and it seems like a natural flow, but that's not always going to happen for you. Well, I mean, with my clients, I do like a little screening, and I want to make sure that they are a good fit for me and that I'm a good fit for them. And if I go through and I'm like, you're not a good fit for me, I have a whole team of people that I know that I can find someone that will fit. If they're like, you know what, I want a meal plan, I want nothing else, I just want a meal plan, I'm like, I have a great personal trainer that will just give you your macros, you'll see results, and you'll love it. It's great. But that's just not who I am anymore, and that's not my goal, and that's not my purpose. So we're not going to work together, but I at least know I can find someone that will. And I'm not afraid to have, those conversations, because I even like owning a gym, people are like, is it you only believe in CrossFit? No, I believe in all fitness. I believe in walking. I believe in yoga. I believe in just strength training. I believe in swimming, hiking, whatever it is. Just do something.
Right.
I don't care what it is. You don't have to work out at my gym. I just want you to move. Like, something isn't for everyone, and it's going to change with seasons. Our nutrition is going to change seasonally. Our workouts, our mood, our life. We're not going to be doing, it's supposed to change. We're always going to be evolving. And when something works with you for a while and then it doesn't work for you anymore, don't force it to work anymore. It doesn't work for you anymore. You have to do something completely different. And that's just with life, your health, business, everything.
Right. Yeah, I know. I think that's a really good note to even end it on, is that we do need to stay checked in with ourselves and doing the same thing, no matter what it is, if it's healthy or not healthy, it won't work forever. We do have to be more in tune with ourselves, and we have to change. If you eat only the same things every day, that's not good for you either. So we need to recognize we do need to be a little bit more fluid and flexible with how we approach just our health in general, right?
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. Sure. And then, so then what about you? Like, have you struggled with like weight and stuff like your whole life, or have you not? Or are you?
I think a lot of it came from body image issues when I hit puberty.
Okay.
So I think from before that, I was very slender when I was young. But then once puberty started to happen and I started to develop, that's when I wanted to kind of withdraw and like not do stuff. You don't want to run around and stuff in front of all the boys at school, because they're noticing things that you're not used to yet.
Did you get boobs early on?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So, so there was that. And then I think just the general, just not getting out and playing as much, because I think in my neighborhood, there was a lot of little boys for my brother to play with, but there wasn't a lot of girls. So I ended up just kind of like staying to myself. And then as I got older, I just got more body aware. I think, once you become a teenager, you're a lot more worried about losing weight and stuff like that. So yeah, I think from there on, it was always kind of back and forth. But I know that when after I had my first child, I decided, I wanted to do it for health reasons. So that was a lot different than what I was used to. And I made a lot of progress after my firstborn. And then I ended up getting pregnant with my next. And I was so worried about gaining weight that I made sure to only eat steamed vegetables and, stuff like that. And I made sure to work out throughout the whole pregnancy, because I did have a comment from a family member like, oh, here comes all the weight back. You're pregnant again? So, so I think I only gained like 21 pounds during that pregnancy, and it was just gone within like the first week. But so I stuck with that for a while, and I feel like that's when the whole story of I only had a little bit of weight that I wanted to lose, and then I heard about the high protein, and then I just feel like I was just in this like loop for years after that, trying to like gain my footing again, until I realized, for me, having stuff taken out and like having no foods and, all of that wasn't the way to do it, because there were sometimes I would get so hungry and I was like, I don't have any more calories to use. I used everything for today, and then be like, screw it. I'm having a big ass peanut butter and jelly sandwich. And then I would still lose weight. Like I was that far deficient that even doing that thing that I thought was like the end of the world, I screwed it all up. It didn't even affect me the way I was afraid it would, because obviously I was doing too much and not eating enough, So I did go through a period where I would run like, I was like a treadmill junkie for a while, because I would be like, I'll just do 3 miles. But then once I started going, I'm like, oh, I'll do 4. Oops, I did 4.5. I might as well do 5, and it would, I would just keep going, but it felt really good, but I'm kind of glad I didn't stick with it that hardcore, because I'm afraid of the state my knees would be in now. But I did that for a while, and but I was doing it from a negative place, really. And so I couldn't stay with it. But I gained weight again somewhat recently for a few years, and just lately for the past like, I don't know, maybe almost a year now, I've just not been being hard on myself. And I keep track of what I eat only so that I don't forget. I just record. I'm not doing it from, I can only have this or that. I'm just honestly writing what I eat, just so I know that I did eat stuff. Sometimes you can just forget that you even ate and be like, man, I hardly had anything. I guess I can have this and that. But honestly, if you're aware of it, it makes it, for some reason, keeping track of it makes it easier for me to not think about it.
Yeah. So. Interesting. Yeah. I mean, food isn't just energy, it's information. So sometimes it's like for you, you're probably busy. You have 2 children.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And you're busy. You work full time. You do the podcast. You do so many things. And, women just have a general, they just generally take care of everyone around them and don't make as much time for themselves. And so, sometimes it's like, am I getting enough calories for me to stay healthy? Like, am I getting enough fiber? Am I getting enough of like good quality fats and proteins and carbs? So it's more just like a tool. And again, the tool shouldn't be used like, if people have like that obsession or already have like major, but yeah, I mean, it is really such a useful tool just to give you some information.
Right. Yeah. That was another thing I was grateful for going to school about, was that I did realize that food was information. And so, starting to get somewhat older, what I'm putting is.
How old are you?
I'm 40.
Okay.
But, what I'm putting in is telling my body how to age and how to regenerate and all of that, when before that's not how I ever thought about it. It was just calories equals fat or skinny, Yeah. So realizing that the food you put in is telling your body to, like how it's going to be, like cell wise, how healthy you're going to be. And that's the most important thing. So the fact that I've started having that attitude makes it easier to make healthier choices more often, because it is the bigger picture.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, good.
So I guess we will wrap this up now.
Okay, if you want to find me, this is where you're going to find me.
Okay.
Emily Zwilling on Instagram, EmilYZWilling. I'm also on Facebook, Emily Zwilling Easy Wellness. Think easy, E and Z, like I'm making.
Yeah, I saw that. I thought that was very clever.
And then my website is in the link in my bio, but it's www.easy-wellness.com, and you can learn all about my programs and things like that. Yes.
Good. Thank you.
So make sure to check out those links. Thanks to Emily for doing the heavy lifting on that one. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you next week.